Hey, welcomed guests. This is a review of the Grand Budapest Hotel, and it's brought to you by my comic book, Red Knight. I publish it through Primal Paper Comics. You can buy issues 1 through 7 off the Primal Paper Comics website. Also, Manos Publishing at Etsy.com. Check out the links below. Now, Grand Budapest Hotel is the newest film from Wes Anderson. And in case you haven't seen any of his films, I highly recommend Rushmore. The Royal Tannenbaums are two of my favorites. He also made, Moonlight Kingdom or Midnight Kingdom?
Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom. I always seriously fuck that title up every time. Maybe it's Rise. I mean, I don't know. Moonrise is not a term that I just naturally think of with my brain. It just doesn't jump off the top of it. Anyway, let's see. We're not talking about that film. We're talking about this film. It stars Ralph Fiennes. This was the first time I've seen him in one of Wes Anderson's films. Wes Anderson has a penchant for collecting actors. So let's see. If they had a pretty good relationship, you can count on seeing Mr. Fiennes in more of his films in the future. He plays M. Gustav. The film actually has an interesting framing device, where it all begins with the image of this young girl at a college who goes to a statue that's in honor of this passed away writer. It's a small memorial to him. And then, as she cracks open one of his books called The Grand Budapest Hotel, we flash to him narrating the story, and I believe it's in 1985 or something like that. Then it flashes through his story to the 60s, where he goes to this hotel on his travels, the Grand Budapest Hotel, and runs into this very rich man played by F. Murray Abraham. And he is Zero. And he starts telling about adventure he had when he was a young man in the 30s. And so we flash back further to that, Inception style. Except I had no problem keeping track. But we start. Zero is a young teenager who is the lobby boy, and he has lobby boy written on his hat, like the old days. And he watches Mr. Gustav, who is the concierge of this fantastic hotel for the very, very rich and famous. Gustav is not only the concierge, but he's also somewhat of a gigolo, where he pretty much fucks a lot of the rich women folk who come through, but specifically a certain type. Actually, he doesn't just have sex with everybody. It does seem to be some kind of type he's looking for, and the film focuses on a relationship he's had with the madame, who is played by Tilda Swinton, who is playing within this old person makeup. She's supposed to be in her 80s, 84, I think she's supposed to be. And she has a weird premonition of her death. She's just worried about the future, and he basically brushes it off and, thinks she's worried about nothing, and sends her on her way. She turns out dead not too long from the point, within a couple of scenes. She leaves him a very rare and expensive painting, and that puts him at odds with her family, led by Adrian Brody playing Dimitri, and who's just, the way he's made up in this film and the way he acts all evil in this costume is rather fun. I don't believe I've seen him perform a character like this. And his main number one hitman, Joplin, is played by Willem Dafoe, and he is Willem Dafoeing all over this part, and I really enjoy the way he's portrayed in this film. Anyway, the first thing they do is accuse him of murder. So he's sent to prison, and with the help of Zero, he goes off on this escape path, as far as not only proving his innocence, but proving who actually did commit the crime. And along the way, we get to see a lot of different folk and a lot of wonderful character actors strung in small parts here, like Harvey Keitel and Jeff Goldblum. Bill Murray shows up, and let's see, some other actors. I mean, actually, there's quite a few. I can't even name them all. Jason Schwartzman, who's shown up in a whole bunch of his films, has a small part. Actually, playing one of the characters in the '60s flashback. What I see here is the way I really like the way Wes Anderson builds characters, and he uses almost a novel-like approach to his films and the way he frames them. And I've seen this happen a couple other times in his movies, and I think he literally does that as this is being read to a young woman in a park, probably present day. And what's interesting is this film kind of takes the idea of passing a story along. Because essentially that's what we're getting here. We have the original Zero who has this incredible adventure, and he tells the story to the young writer, played by Jude Law, by the way, in the 60s, and then the writer who grows up, and by the way, his older version is played by Tom Wilkinson, in a very funny framing device as well, because he's all serious trying to tell the story, and he's interrupted by, I don't know, his grandchildren or something, goes apeshit and starts yelling at them. It's really funny. And then, of course, we end up with the young woman just simply reading the story, who is 70 years separated from this event, which may or may not be true. Some parts of the film you feel like maybe this could be exaggerated, or you're right into the heart of the story. And Wes Anderson probably is one of those directors now who has a very specific, noticeable, recognizable style. And of course, any filmmaker like that, people will have a problem, like, oh, he always does the same thing. Well, that's their style, and actually I appreciate... I've watched him grow from, not just Rushmore, but Bottle Rocket, too, growing in the way he tells a story over and over again, and he does have this almost... There is a... He does seem to have still this independent spirit in his films, and he never lets it get in the way of... He never lets humor, he never lets style get in the way of a story that he's trying to tell. And you always just really feel for these characters. No, a lot of his characters aren't big, showy, chatty characters. They're kind of just people who are doing their best to kind of put on a good face. And, circumstances aren't always on their side. I enjoyed this film a lot. I think it is playing in most major markets now. I do recommend seeing it. I loved it a lot. I give the film 5 Ram chips. Push the button, Lindsay.